back to TWR. My name is Tavian. This is my world of reptiles. I hope you are all doing well and taking care of yourselves. We up in here today, and I just want to show you guys this amazing shed I got from my big girl, Artemis. This is my big giant boa shed. As you can see, this is a full giant shed. It's about legitly taller than me, and that's touching the ground, just barely touching the ground, and it is way taller than me. But of course, you know, snakes shed skin. I mean, snake skin stretches. So that does not mean that this particular snake is larger than me. It is just stretched a bit. And if you haven't yet, I talked about snake skin in this video here. You should check it out. I won't cover it again because I think I did a pretty solid job with this video. So check it out. I talk a little bit about snake skin and how it functions and all about it. So it's pretty cool stuff. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. But yeah, I got a full shed here. One of my favorite things in the world is a full shed. Like, this is one of my favorite things in the world about keeping reptiles, particularly snakes. When I get a full shed, I feel so accomplished, because for me, a full shed signifies that husbandry care is exactly where it needs to be. Humidity wise, it's exactly where it needs to be. The snake is growing and it's healthy, it's exactly where it needs to be. So I really love full sheds like this. I'm all about it. I strive to have full sheds from every single one of my snakes. Occasionally I get a rough one, and that's just inspiration for me to be more on it with my stuff, meaning that at some point with that snake I slacked off with, whether that's humidity or whatever it needed. Particularly, it's usually humidity when it comes to getting a full shed. As long as the humidity levels are where they need to be with the snake, then they're good to go. Even if you have something like a corn snake or a king snake that doesn't necessarily need humidity all the time, if you are providing at least a humid box or something like that during their shed cycle, when you see that they've gone in blue, then you have a much higher chance of getting a full shed. So even snakes that don't have humidity requirements in their day-to-day lives when it comes to shedding can definitely benefit from having humidity, so that they can get a full shed and not have a messy shed. So just something that I really want to talk about, which was this beautiful shed here. So let's go ahead and actually talk about Artemis, who this shed came from, because this is a full shed, but there was a bit of a rip near the face, and she is actually missing multiple scales on her face, and that's because in the back of her tank, in the back, there's the little hole where the plugs go through, and the cover that I had for that came off. And at first I didn't think anything about it, because I'm like, well, it's significantly smaller than her head, and she's not going to get through it. But and that was a mistake on my end, because she did try to get through it. She did find it, and she tried, and as a process, her nose got hardcore scraped up from rubbing and trying to push herself through that. And so when she shed all that off. You know, it had scabbed over, and she shed it all off, but now it's just kind of like raw and fleshy like. So now with that being like that, I'm gonna have to take the extra little precaution, just because she's already been through so much medical stuff. I don't want that to get infected or anything like that. So I will be giving her regular betadine treatments, which is kind of cotton swab, just kind of cleaning that off, making sure that it does not get any kind of infected, because it is just a little bit of an open wound right now from losing that scabbing during the process of shedding. And so it's nothing serious. She'll definitely heal from it. She may or may not grow those scales back. Chances are she'll probably have a permanent scar there, but she's still a beautiful snake. But when it comes to losing scales, that can happen naturally as well. Not to this extent where it's like raw and fleshy. If you've ever had a snake lose scales and been super kind of panicky about it, I want to remind you that it's not something to panic about. Snakes do lose their scales occasionally. It does happen. It just generally happens. They shed, and then you'll see like one or two little spots along their body where there's like a pale spot, and there's no scales there. Not fleshy like you saw with like Artemis has going on, but usually just kind of dry like the rest of their body. Just there's not a scale there, and that's not something to panic about. It's not something to feel like you've done anything wrong. It's not something to really get scared about. It just naturally happens, and those two will either grow back or they won't. But it's not something that's going to be super detrimental to the snake. It is not something to super panic about. In this case, it was because she had rubbed so much. She had already gotten a wound from rubbing. It had scabbed, and then when she shed, it pulled the scab off, which just left a fleshy wound. So it's not the same as losing just a scale randomly like you might experience. So if you have experienced that, I don't want you to panic or feel like you gotta go get any medical treatment or do any of this betadine stuff that I'm talking about, because you don't. Usually it's just fine. It's not something to really think about. So yeah, just wanted to mention that. But so this is not really a super long video. It's just a little small one, just to talk a little bit about why I really appreciate getting full sheds and how that's important for me, and how that is a really clear indication of having a good husbandry. If you have a snake that is like really dropping some messy sheds, and you're just like having to pull out hundreds of pieces of just little pieces of sheds all the time, and you're like having to help get that shed off of them because it's just getting stuck, then that's something that we need to address when it comes to husbandry. You definitely want to look at what the requirements are for that animal when it comes to humidity, and are you reaching that? And if it doesn't have any humidity requirements and you're having these struggles with the shed, maybe think about putting in a humid box. When you next time you see that your snake is in shed, go ahead and throw in a humid box. They will utilize it until the shed is done, or they won't, and then you'll have a higher chance of getting a full shed and less of a mess, which is more comfortable for them to not have to like scratch off dry, scaly, itchy, just pieces of dry skin, and just instead of just having one solid like moist skin noodle come off of them, and they're just fine and said and done. And it is less mess on you to have to just like clean all that out, and sometimes it can mean literally cleaning out the entire enclosure because it's just such a mess. There's no picking out just little bits. It's just everywhere. So it can save you time as well, which is making sure that you're getting a full shed and don't have to do all that extra mess. So if this video was helpful to somebody, awesome, hit that like button. If not, awesome, don't hit the like button. You all just take care of yourselves though. Love yourselves, love your loved ones, love your reptiles, and you all keep spreading those herbs.